Hi, this is Kevin Pawlowski from Paradise Found Studio, and we're going to take a field trip today to Howard Finster's Paradise Garden. Okay, and this is a great example because when I get into the sacred arts, talking to sacred artists, it's all about the passion for their work, and no one exemplifies that like Howard Finster. So this is part one. We're going to go through the gardens. Part two, look out for the link below, and we're going to get into Howard Finster himself. So let's go. Right from the start, before I even went into the entrance, I noticed every inch of the sidewalk leading into the garden was covered in mosaic. Paradise Garden should prove to be a unique experience. Paradise Gardens was a labor of love of Howard Finster. He was a Baptist minister, and in 1976 had a vision from God to create 5,000 works of art. He far surpassed that number, producing over 47,000 works by the time he died in 2001. I'll cover Howard's story in detail in my next video installment. For this installment, we're going to take a look around Paradise Gardens. Howard Finster assembled this garden over decades, working what I would call found art collage, but in a massive scale. He assembled in various materials, including what many would consider junk, and people have provided objects and materials over the years. They could be trinkets and toys, but also going as far as a casket and even a recovered body. The first thing I saw as I walked out of the visitor center was the World's Folk Art Church, Inc. I don't think it's really incorporated, but that's the name in the program. This is a structure that reaches 40 feet high, 4 stories, 16 sides, and a circular staircase that I couldn't really see from the outside. Apparently Howard built this from plans from God without any help from a professional architect. They didn't let us in the structure for safety reasons, not necessarily because of the integrity of the structure, but it wasn't well maintained since his death almost 20 years ago. Howard claimed to get messages and visions of what he should produce directly from God, all for the purpose of sharing the message of Jesus Christ. On the surface that sounds a bit nuts, but when you see the results, all from a guy with no formal art training and a 6th grade education, it's kind of hard to argue the point. Those of us that work in the sacred art, like myself, often claim to be inspired by the Holy Spirit. Why is that any different, I wonder? This is the meditation chapel and casket. The focal point is a donated casket, which is kind of creepy. The walls are covered with Bible verses, which is a theme throughout the park. Howard had a vision that he would be cremated and his ashes added to the casket, but I'm not clear if that's what really happened. Howard died in 2001. Artists came out of the woodwork wanting to leave memorials for him, so they are gathered here in the garden. Rolling Chair House, which houses an exhibition of works donated by other artists, is intended to help folks in wheelchairs get around and see the sights. The wall is covered from top to bottom with art, and some of it is pretty impressive. This type of art isn't for everyone, but I love the energy and passion that goes into it. This piece is called Serpent of the Wildness. Snakes were a common subject with obvious religious symbolism of evil. A similar piece is in the Atlanta High Museum, and another is featured on the cover of an REM album. When I look around, it's hard to avoid wondering if Howard was a bit compulsive, given the manic, intricate nature of his work. It reminds me sort of like the scene in Pink Floyd The Wall when Pinky assembled bits of broken dishes and furniture into patterns on the floor. Then again, as a guy with a 5-foot mosaic crucifix in his basement, am I the best judge? Mosiac Garden is a good example of this intricate design work that at first glance looks haphazard, but when taken as a whole you can start to see the overall design. As I said, it's not for everyone, but I see beauty here. At the very least, it's fun to look at. This is the mirror house. As you can see, it's covered from inside out with mirror pieces. This must shine like a disco ball when the sun hits it just right. Under the walkway are the Inventions of Mankind window boxes, which feature examples of big accomplishments in technology. To be honest, at this point, it starts to look more like organized hoarding to me. This is a reproduction of a piece by Keith Haring, who was big in the New York art scene in the 90s. He started as a graffiti artist, and his colorful, dynamic figures became really popular. I've always liked his work. Keith died of AIDS shortly after he visited Howard at the garden. So is Howard Finster a great sacred artist? I don't really know how to answer that. His work isn't refined by any means. He certainly had raw talent, and I don't think anyone can match his passion, energy, and vision. He spent decades of his life on a mission to guide others to Jesus Christ. That seems like more than enough. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tour of Howard Finster's Paradise Garden. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like. We'd love to hear your comments, and if you want to get more of these, we're going to be doing these every other week, either touring or talking to the actual artists. So subscribe, because we're trying to build our subscriber base, so we'd really appreciate it.